This is a story called The Foster Child Who Goes Back to Live with Her Birth Mother. A 4-year-old girl has been living with her foster parents since she was 6 months old. They are the only parents that Holly has ever known, and she even calls them Mummy and Daddy. Holly became a foster child because her birth mother was a drug addict and she didn't look after her properly. She used to have all kinds of people in, drinking, smoking and taking drugs. Her parents' health wasn't good, so there was no way they could take Holly in and look after her on a permanent basis. They kept in touch with her and they were allowed to see her whenever they wanted. One day when Holly was just 3 years old, social services told her foster parents that her birth mother wanted access because she was now off the drugs and working full time. Holly's foster parents were adamant that they are not going to allow this to happen because they don't want Holly's mum anywhere near her and they want to adopt her. They have 2 children of their own, Isabella aged 8 and Isla aged 6. All 3 girls get on really well and they are quite close. Because Holly's foster parents are refusing to let her birth mum have access, there's going to be a court case to decide whether Rebecca can have access or not. On the day of the court case, the judge decided that Rebecca deserved a chance to see her daughter and to get to know her. He told Rebecca that she could see Holly 1 day a week to start with, and then after 3 months she could have her 2 days a week. Holly's foster parents, Jane and Michael, weren't very happy about this, but they knew that they had no choice but to do what the judge said. Even though Holly wouldn't settle with Rebecca, she was still forced to visit her. Every visit she would throw a tantrum. Then after about 2 months she got used to it, even though she hated going. After one visit, Rebecca told social services that she wanted Holly back permanently and that she wasn't willing to allow Jane and Michael to adopt her. Social services told her that there would have to be a custody hearing in court, but they couldn't see any reason why she shouldn't get custody. In court, Rebecca's past was dragged up, but in the end she won, and Holly went to live with her, leaving her foster parents devastated. On the day Holly went to live with Rebecca, she cried and cried. In fact, she cried and cried for days and refused to eat. She just kept saying, "I want to go home to Mummy and Daddy." After a while, Holly stopped constantly crying, but her behaviour was out of control. She wouldn't do anything that Rebecca told her to do, and she just kept being constantly naughty. Eventually she did settle down, but she hated living with Rebecca, and she still kept saying that she wanted to go home to Mummy and Daddy. After Holly had been living with Rebecca for about 4 months, she finally settled down completely. However, Rebecca was back on the drugs and she'd gone back to her old ways, and Holly was taken into care again. She wasn't sent back to her original foster parents. She was sent to a lady who took good care of her. Holly still wasn't happy and she constantly asked for Jane and Michael. When Jane and Michael found out that Holly was back in care, they knew that they had to get her back. They contacted social services, who said there was no chance of them getting Holly back. They were devastated, but they weren't willing to give up. They decided to seek legal advice, and they were told that they stood a good chance of being able to adopt Holly, but they would have to go to court. In court, the judge didn't grant them custody, so they went on TV and contacted the newspapers and told their story. Eventually they went back to court, but this time it was a different judge, and she said that she couldn't see any reason why Holly shouldn't be adopted by Jane and Michael. As you can imagine, Jane and Michael were over the moon and they couldn't wait to get Holly back. When Holly finally went back to them, she wasn't the same child. She'd been through a lot, but with a great deal of love and patience, she soon settled back in with Jane and Michael and was back to her normal self in no time. Holly is now 11 years old and she has just moved up to high school. She says that when she leaves school she wants to be a judge so that she can help to put bad people away. Jane and Michael know that she will do exactly that because she's been saying the same thing since she was 7 years old, and she's very intelligent. She's already read quite a few law books she got from the library, so she already knows quite a bit about the law. The end. Thank you.